Welcome to the preview interviews of the BASE conference. Today we are welcoming Maarten Van der Biest. He is a business manager of the online MBA at the Vlerick Business School in Belgium. Maarten, welcome. I'm absolutely delighted to have you. Thank you. So tell us, who are you? What do you do? What is this online MBA? What do you do?
Well, I'm Maarten Van der Biest, as you said. I have a background in IT, going from really early stage development in an internet startup, moving to IT management. But I think a pivotal moment in my career was following our own executive MBA at Vlerick Business School. We drink our own champagne, and there we found out in our knowledge and action project that well, what would be for us the innovation for Vlerick Business School, and one of the innovation or one of the things that we grasped with two hands was our online MBA, and trying to make a very successful program, our executive MBA, more open to the world and more in line with new technology. And so we created a fully online MBA, which is a degree project. It's a degree education, so long-term, between 1 and 5 years, very in-depth. It's quite substantial, but 100% online, and that I think is very useful. It also gives us the ability to be very flexible, and that's as a result why we also see at our participant base that there are quite a few entrepreneurs taking advantage of this online MBA to scale up their company and their knowledge.
Yeah, brilliant. And that's precisely where you are in the BASE conference. That's a kind of knowledge that we are waiting to be shared. So just to give us a taster, what are your 3 top recommendations that you will give to any entrepreneur who is moving its startup to the level of scaling up, or the same advice that you will be giving those students in the online MBA?
Well, there is a reason why these entrepreneurs are following an online MBA, and I think because a startup is not the same as a scale-up. It's a different DNA. It's a different stage, and what we see quite often is that when you start to becoming a scale-up, that you start to have that need for an organizational structure. And quite often, if you're looking for recommendations, what we see is quite often try to put that organizational structure in a very early stage, because what we see is that quite often it's put in place a bit too late. When we say 15 to 20 people start looking at that organizational structure, that organogram, reporting structures, because that will allow the entrepreneurs also to take a step back and to see what is really important, because and that's maybe a second recommendation already, is be very aware of your role as an entrepreneur, as a founder. I think the tendency is to be very operational in the idea. It's your baby that is there. You want to grasp it, but in fact you need to grow it and to flourish it. And then it's crucial to make the distinction between a very operational management role and maybe what is more important is that strategic role, and focus more externally rather than internally. And that's also what we see quite a lot here, is that these entrepreneurs who are moving towards the bigger enterprises and growing a lot, that they feel that at a certain moment they have a bit lacking competencies, in overall competencies of general management, and that's why they are very well interested not only in the entrepreneurship course, of course, that's at their heart, but also in the general topics like HR management, marketing, finance, for example. And maybe finance, that's also something, if I would say, the third recommendation in a successful transition from a startup to a scale-up, it might be that funding and financing. We see that there's a lot of emphasis or request for those financial feeling, because it's it's quite hard sometimes to grasp what the finances in that early stage are. What is the impact of a hire, for example, on your cash situation? Are you burning too much cash? What do you need in funding to really grow from that startup to scale up? So being on top of that and gaining knowledge on that would be then my third recommendation.
Brilliant. Absolutely. I absolutely can see it, how the entrepreneurial personality of lack of a structure, operational involvement, and I don't know about money, is really the top three things that they need to be educated and modified to really have a scale up, to get the structure, to be more strategic, and to really understand your numbers. And that's where a program like yours can give them.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it could be interpreted as the negative question, but maybe you can take it from a different way. Is what shouldn't they stop doing, or what mistake could they make? What should they avoid when they are moving from a startup to scale up?
Well, let's not interpret this as a negative question. I think what is important is that as an entrepreneur, you're allowed to fail sometimes, but it's better to learn from others. And there, I think the networking comes in also. If I look at our entrepreneurs, or I listen to our entrepreneurs and our faculty in entrepreneurship, what I see that is quite important to avoid or to learn from is your first employees, the HR part of attracting the right people in a startup, where there's not a lot of emphasis put sometimes on profiling during the recruitment, but it's quite important. We have a saying here: first time right. The hire slow, fire fast. That is something that you need to keep in mind, because they will grow with your company, and it's a very nice phase to be in, but you want to do that with the right people, I think. If we're looking at what might go wrong or cause issues in going through that scale-up phase that you might have avoided, then we see that, for example, the composition of the founding team, that is very important in knowing what the direction is and being on the same page with everyone in the founding team. That is very important, because it's all good when you're in that hype of the moment and you're starting the idea and you're full of energy, but then once you go into the growing phases, that's a different ballgame, and it might be that that things come up where you haven't thought about, and so that's, for example, one of the things that I will share during the conference with the participants. But we do have a founding team checklist, which is found very valuable. Where it's just to make you reflect on some of the things, and you want upfront maybe to get those to get those topics on the table, let's say. And then maybe a last thing to avoid is I wouldn't say avoid, but try to keep the agility even after the first phase of success. What I have seen before is that well, once you have your first success, you take it for granted and you stick with that, and you feel like, okay, it's there, it will all grow now. Now, if you look at the really successful companies who go from startup to scale up, in software, for example, when you would take their first successful software product and you would compare that with what happens a year later, half year later, a year and a half later, that's not the same anymore, because they keep on innovating, keep on being at what makes us unique, listening to customers, listening to clients. So I would give as a tip, don't forget about that. And that's also why a lot of the entrepreneurs do need to take a step back and free up some time from the operational perspective, just to do that, and to keep focusing on the part where they are good at, and that's the ID creation, listening to the customer, making sure that their product is serving the purpose of the one who buys it.
Brilliant. I love particularly the last one, relevance, and the strategy. Oh, I'm so delighted. I'm so curious about asking you the last question. The last question, this very difficult question for you, is to tell us the one tip, the one thing that they have to do, these managers, these executives, these entrepreneurs that are moving from a startup to scale up.
Yeah, well, it's very tempting to say educate yourself and keep up to date about the latest things and technology. That's what we see them doing. But a crucial part in that, I think, an actionable tip is to free up time. Free up time from operations to keep on innovating. But maybe one thing is to focus on leadership. A transition from an entrepreneur towards a leader, because if you grow the company, well, people will need more like a leader to look up to, and to have some charisma by nature. Should it be by nature? Well, I am confident that that's also a bit by nurture, and that you can acquire these kind of leadership skills, and that's why we put a very large emphasis also to the leadership track. It's not a course in the online MBA, it's a track where we guide people on getting that change in themselves, and giving them the focus, the spotlight that they deserve within their company, and that they stand there in front of their people to be embodying what the company is.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I'm going to read your last answer as you need to educate yourself. And this is a shameless advertisement to invite you to come to the BASE conference. If you see, Maarten just gave us a taste of all the knowledge that he has developed over all these years. So he's going to be one of our speakers. Imagine what all the things that he has to say to you and all the other speakers. So if you haven't bought your ticket, I invite you to do it so. And thank you, Maarten, and thank you, everybody, for listening.